can you set the scene for us on Saturday night and what happened at Annie's home?
Yeah, Megan, it kind of came out of nowhere. I was over at Nancy's house, which is about 10 minutes away, and I got a call like something's going down at Annie's house. So I raced over here. This is Annie's house behind me. And when I got here, there were three deputies that had just arrived. They have private security here. NBC hired private security, I'm told, and it seemed coordinated because the security guard just moved out of the way, let the three deputies in, and they had blue gloves on. They had some camera equipment that was in a case. They went inside and they were inside for 3 hours. They closed all the blinds. I could see them taking pictures. Yeah, there you go. Right. That's some of the stuff they brought out. I could see them taking pictures in the garage. You could see a flash from a camera, and then you could see them move throughout the house to other parts of the house because you could see the flash from the camera coming from around the blinds.
Hmm. And it took about 3 hours?
Yeah, they were inside for 3 hours, and then they packed up and they left. They didn't say a word. And NBC is reporting today that it was consensual, that I guess it was worked out with the family that they were going to show up, which really doesn't surprise me because, again, just it didn't seem, it seemed like they knew they were coming. The security guard moved out of the way. They knew how to get into the house. There's no one at the house right now, so they went in on their own. And it all seems like very coordinated.
Brian, where's the family?
It's a good question. We don't know. They were here. Savannah was at this house early last week with her sister, her sister's husband, and Cameron was here also. And this is where they filmed the first video because we saw them bring the ring light and the tripod in. And somehow they left without anyone really noticing. And it's interesting, there were more security guards here, specifically hired by NBC when Savannah was here. There were three security guards. And then when she left, now there's only one security guard just sort of keeping an eye on the house and, telling people to stay back.
Well, it's interesting to watch NBC in the mornings on the Today Show to see what they're reporting on this case, because there's no question in my mind it will have been blessed by Savannah. There's zero doubt that they are asking her, are you comfortable with this? Are you okay? They would not want to upset her or get out ahead of their skis or go someplace where she didn't want it. And they were the ones who broke the news that the search of Annie's home was consensual as opposed to, via search warrant. So to me, I'm deducing, though I can't confirm it as an independent fact, that she doesn't want it looking like her sister or anybody living in that home, like the brother-in-law, are in any way in trouble. But that does not jive with Ashley Banfield's reporting about them considering Annie's husband, Tomas, and that he may, quote, be a prime suspect in this case. We're still investigating that too, Brian, and whether the brother-in-law is coming under the scrutiny of law enforcement. And all I can tell you is that I have reason to believe Ashley Banfield was onto something. I don't know that he did this, but I do believe her reporting that they are taking a very serious look at him. And he's been out of the picture. I mean, he has not been in any of the videos. Has he been seen at all, Brian?
He hasn't been seen since I think it was Tuesday of last week. We got some photos of him outside the house here. He's very recognizable with this big beard. And he was outside with his wife, Savannah's sister, Annie, and they were in the car together. But it's now been almost a week. And something else interesting, you mentioned how they the authorities went and retrieved the surveillance video from the gas station and that they were looking for someone. That gas station is a Circle K, and it's right around the corner from Annie's house. It's not close to Nancy's house. It's right around the corner from Annie's house. And it's where it's positioned is where you would have to drive to go from Nancy's house to Annie's house, which I think is really interesting. It's literally like 1 minute away from here.
Mm-hmm. Here's what I want to know. I want to know whether anybody's been asked to give and or has given a polygraph. Not a peep about that. Is that correct? No one's saying a word.
Not a word. I interviewed yesterday a former homicide detective for Pima County who was there for 20 years and is now retired. And it's interesting what you were reporting in the beginning of your show. I mean, he says the same exact thing, that there's been so much turnover there, that it's a mess at the sheriff's office, and that most of the homicide detectives have like 2 years experience. And so he's concerned a lot of the veterans like him have left just because they've been upset with the department for different reasons. And there was a different different sheriff, and then another sheriff came back, and it's been a mess there. But he was telling me that in his 20 years there, they never once administered a polygraph. That wasn't something that they did as a sheriff's office ever, not even once. But
Oh, no.
yeah, I know. But I don't know if now that the FBI is involved, maybe they would be doing that.
I don't know, because while they suggested it was a joint investigation at the Thursday presser, FBI, Pima County, my understanding is it's Pima County running herd on this, that it's their investigation, their running point. And so that may tell us some unfortunate things. Here's the other thing I want to know. The Sunday discovery that Nancy was missing allegedly came down to someone at her church noticing she wasn't there and calling the family, which then sent the family to Nancy's home, which led to the discovery of the crime scene, however it looked. They haven't really told us what was inside the home. The Daily Mail and you also, we talked about this last week, reporting that Nancy Guthrie was actually was no longer attending the church that they said she was, and that in fact she'd been going virtual for the past 5 years since COVID. That she'd been participating in the live stream that this church offers, leading us to ask, how would anybody have noticed that she wasn't on the live stream? Because it's not like a Zoom where you can see people joining. Now, we did actually try to join it this weekend and realize that there's a chat. You can join a chat. So it is possible that somebody was in the chat. Look, maybe this is my own bias. The thought of my mom not only joining a live stream, who's 84, but actually then getting in the church chat during the mass and chatting, like it's an impossibility. Yeah. But maybe Nancy Guthrie was a lot more tech savvy than my 84-year-old mom. Could be. She had an Apple Watch. So I want to know whether the investigators have tracked down the alleged parishioner who's purported to have made the phone call. Brian, do we know whether that's happened?
It hasn't happened from what we know. And that's been one of the strange things about this is me and then all of my other colleagues, we all talk about it out on the street. We've all been trying to figure out this church element. Everybody has been to the church. Everybody has talked to the pastor. And the pastor has said that she went to the church, but that she hasn't come back in person since COVID, that she goes virtually, and no one seems to know that she went to another church. And the church over the weekend at their service, the pastor talked about Nancy, and it appears that's the church she goes to. And what I thought was interesting, Megan, is at the last press conference, the sheriff never brought up the church again. It's almost like he said that the first time right after this happened, but then no one ever talks about the church anymore. So I don't know, the sheriff made a lot of weird off the cuff remarks and mistakes. Like, I don't know if that's just something he said initially, and now there's another reason that the family was concerned that has nothing to do with the church. I just don't know.
International disputes, inflation, rising national debt, digital currency. There's a never-ending list of reasons gold has risen over 700% in the last 20 years. And a never-ending list of reasons smart Americans diversify a portion of their savings into precious metals with Birch Gold Group. Gold can thrive during uncertainty, which is why it's a crucial part of a balanced strategy. It gives you peace of mind, given all the events that could impact the U.S. economy. See if holding gold in a tax-sheltered retirement account is right for you. Birch Gold can help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. Just text MK to the number 989898 to receive your free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, consider letting Birch Gold help you diversify with gold, so you too can have peace of mind regardless of the uncertainty. Text MK to 989898. Here's what he said when asked. The question was, have you interviewed the people that reported her, meaning Nancy, missing from the church? And he responded, we're doing all kinds of interviews. Yes, I'm sure we have. Okay, which is not actually a yes. That's not actually a yes at all. It's actually kind of disconcerting. And yet another thing that either they do need to do or they've done, and he's just not telling us. We don't know. So Brian, what about today? The deadline now for this 5 p.m. $6 million payment is looming, and the Savannah and siblings video from the other night said we will pay. It said we will pay.
Yeah,
but they've had no proof of life. They don't know whether these people actually have their mom. And so do we believe that they're actually going to pay $6 million in Bitcoin? Like, Has any law enforcement spoken to this or shed any light on what the next step should be?
Yeah, I mean, Savannah said they will pay. Whether they end up doing it, we don't know. And it's interesting. You mentioned the local affiliate was reporting. I think you said it was 1 million and 6 million. That's a little different than what I've
Yeah.
learned. I learned it was 4 million and 6 million, and 4 million was the first deadline on Thursday at 5 p.m. and 6 million is the deadline today. But that was in the first note. And the second note, while we don't know exactly what it says, there are some indications that it, based on what Savannah said in her video, the second note may have alluded to Nancy not being okay. And that's why I'm hearing they're not calling it a ransom note. They're just calling it a note. And there was no demand for payment in the second note. It was just a message to the family. It wasn't like, and you can still pay this amount by this time. So I don't, and also, is there a third note that we just don't know about? But that's the other thing I've been wondering. Maybe they're just not reporting on it yet. And Savannah's video is responding to a third note.
I wonder the same, because some of the messaging is so like controlled and calculated. It almost seems like they're saying something they were. Can we watch the Savannah video one more time? Let's just watch it one more time.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
So, first of all, it's incredibly grim. They're all very grim-faced. There's nothing about their expressions that telegraphs they've gotten any sort of hopeful news. We understand, she said, we understand, in a sad, like, contemplative way. We beg you. She's begging them now, saying, give us our mother back so we can celebrate with her. Again, that word celebrate sticks out like a sore thumb, and it's the only way we'll have peace, which is another word associated with, I think, people who are, grieving, having a settlement of the grief, even if it's a sad settlement, but just a settlement, like what's happened and you can be at peace with it. To me, that's what she was telegraphing. But you're right, we don't know what was in the note. Wait, but Brian, the $4 million would make more sense to me than 4 and 6 makes more sense to me than 1 and 6. Because I have to tell you, I've had this conversation behind the scenes with a few different people. Let's face it, $1 million is not much for Savannah Guthrie. She can lose that easily and not really even feel it. So, like, if that were the initial demand, I think they would have just paid it. They would have just paid it on Thursday. $4 million is that's a lot more.
Yeah, and I'm confident in my reporting. The person who I spoke to saw the note himself. So I'm sure it was 4 million and 6 million. And I can't remember if I talked to you about this last time, but the other thing that was in the first note that was so alarming to the FBI, there's two things. One, the location of the Apple Watch inside Nancy's room was very, very specific. And the other thing is they specifically referenced a damaged, smashed floodlight in the backyard, which has since been removed up on the back of Nancy's house, which is smashed. So those two things were spot on in the first note, which appears to be why they've been taking all of this so seriously.
But Brian, don't you think, like, okay, so the floodlight is visible from the outside. People were crawling all over the property, and especially, Monday. I think the first notes came Tuesday. So you would have just had to see it on sometime Sunday or Monday. Or prior to that, potentially you could have seen it prior to that. If you were a contractor taking advantage of the family's pain here and you'd been inside the house, you might know about that floodlight, and you might know where she keeps her Apple Watch at night. The thing that I can't get past is, if I stole somebody and I needed to give proof of life so that I could get millions of dollars, I would ask that person questions that only that person would know the answers to. And I would put that information in my note. Like, information above all would be proof of life, not where, like, who would say where she keeps the Apple Watch or that a floodlight had been damaged as their, it is I've got your person proof.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point. You'd think there'd be something more specific, and then initially, they really wanted to open these lines of communication, but you'd imagine if there really is a kidnapper, they would be hesitant to do that because the FBI is trying to track. And I don't know if you knew this, Megan, but we found out through the news director of KOLD, which is where both notes went, that it wasn't submitted through like an email. It came through a news tips form that you fill out on the website of, you know what I mean? Like you can fill out your name, subject.
Both notes or just the second one?
Both notes. That went to KOLD at least. I don't know if it's the same with TMZ. So I think that makes it harder to track. And they used, a scrambler for the IP address because it was different IP addresses both times. So if they, I don't know that you can attach a picture that way.
I know. And I don't even think you need a picture though. Like if somebody had a relative of yours or anybody or mine or anybody listening, we all know certain things they could ask the relative. Like if anybody who I know very well, a family member, needed to prove through a kidnapper that it was them, that they were with the kidnapper, they absolutely could do it with information, with references, with like family jokes. Like it would be easy. And so just the fact that this person has gone with something so weird, like an outside floodlight and the location of an Apple Watch, what is that? That proves to me you've been to the house. And it looks like you've been in the house. But think of the number of contractors an 84-year-old has going through her home. You can do very little as an 84-year-old. She probably has somebody help her change her light bulbs. She definitely has somebody change her air filters. Her air conditioner goes on the fritz. Somebody comes in. The person who may have changed the roof recently, as the neighbor observed. It's like the list is so long. But now we're talking about somebody who's taking advantage of the family's pain and not necessarily the person who's causing it.
Well, or is all this just a sideshow, Megan? I mean, I've been thinking about this all weekend. Is all of this just something that the FBI has to look into and that Savannah and her family have to respond to because you put yourself in their shoes, just in case, how could you not? What if in the 1% chance it is true, you want to respond, you want to try, but is there a whole nother side of this investigation happening that, like you mentioned at the beginning, we just don't know about? I mean, them coming here to the house, at 9 o'clock at night on a Saturday out of nowhere. The only thing that I'm skeptical about that, though, is that it was these 3 sheriff's deputies who were just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I saw the raid at Nancy's house. I shouldn't say raid, but I saw when the FBI team showed up, it was like insane. I mean, it was a full-on FBI. They were in their special outfits. They were in the fancy vans and the evidence unit, and the tape goes up, and it felt so organized. Here on Saturday night, it was just these 3 deputies. I mean, I hate to say this, but their cars were a little beat up, and they get out and they kind of wobble in. And like, if this was so serious here, why didn't the FBI come here? Like, there's a lot I can't figure out.
Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.